Hey there, Vince here, and welcome to a Retro Hall Circuit Rewind. So before jumping into the main content today, I just wanted to go over the fact that this past weekend was PAX West here in Seattle, and they also had Nintendo Live there. And while at PAX West, well, I kind of spent a couple bucks on a few items here and there from limited run games, from Pink Gorilla, and from dial-up games. We have a mix of old and new here, including like a Virtual Boy book, some games for the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox One, a few import games here, a couple more import games here, an infrared wireless joystick, and an infrared light gun for the NES. So let's take this down. Let's look at this one real quick. It says it's compatible with Nintendo, Sega, Atari, and Commodore, but it doesn't say exactly which consoles from each of those systems it's compatible with, but it's only a 2-button controller, so, NES and, things of that era. Nothing too fancy, but I'm real interested to give it a try to add to my controller collection. And now the motherlode of all pickups for the weekend, the red box. A traveler kit for the NES. Really cool stuff. Legend has it that this was used by traveling businessmen to show off the NES to retail stores before they would purchase it. And then later on, these cases were picked up by some mom and pop rental stores and used for rentals. The reason why we think that this is not initially designed to be a rental case is because it also has a spot for games, and a rental case wouldn't have a spot for games because you'd be renting them separate from the console itself. Anyway, that's as much as I know about this right now. Click that all together. Let's get this to the side, and let's move on to our main content. The whole reason I want to do this video today. This is going to be a short one today, a part 2 to the content backing up series that I'm working on right now. Previously, I made a video on backing up CDs and DVDs and uploading them to the Internet Archive. Today, however, I'm going to be focusing on consoles and cartridge-based video games that have battery backup saves, or a couple of them actually have flash-based saves, and we'll get into that in a bit. To start with, I have this cute little device on my desk here. This is called a GB operator. As you can probably guess from what the name implies, GB is for Game Boy, GameBoy Color, and GameBoy Advance games. Today, I have a copy of Pokemon Crystal here in the United States. And what I'm going to do first is, on my desktop, I'm going to open the Epilogue playback. Epilogue is the company who makes the GB operator. So just double click on that, get the software up and running. And now it says, please insert a cartridge. So I'm going to take my Pokemon Crystal, insert it into the GB operator, and immediately it auto-detects what game it is and shows the box art for the game. What we're going to do now is go to Data, and there is Backup Save. And from here, I'm simply going to click on Start, tell it where I want to save it, which for now is just going to go straight on the desktop, and that quickly it's done because the save files are tiny. That's all it takes to back up a Game Boy game or a Game Boy save file using this method. Additionally, there is also Upload Save that you can click on, and the process is much the same, where you just hit Start, select one of your dump files, and it will upload it to the system. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want to mess around with writing save data to this particular cartridge, even though it would technically be the same save file. So why am I doing this? Why am I going to go through and back up all these different game cartridges, the save files for all of them? Well, batteries don't last forever. It's actually a miracle that some of these game saves are still working today in 2023, considering that, for instance, this cartridge was produced in the late 1990s. It was, wasn't it? Oh, whoops, my bad. The cartridge actually has a copyright of the year 2000. So I was close, but not quite accurate. Internet people yell at me for not knowing the exact year every single game came out. Good for you. But with the batteries dying, I want to back up every cartridge that I have, including all especially these import games that I've been buying from Japan. These are not only my childhood memories, but these are childhood memories of random strangers throughout the world who have played Pokemon or other different games. They may have put hundreds of hours into these games creating these save files, and I want to make sure that's preserved and documented for anybody who wants to play around with them. For me, I started doing this with the GB operator, but I've also moved on and worked on other consoles. So now let's start getting into those as well. The next system I'm going to work on backups for is the North American Super Nintendo or the Japanese Super Famicom. And to do that, I'm going to use this device right here, the Analogue Super Nt. And I'm going to take my Final Fantasy Mystic Quest cartridge, slot it into the system, power it up. In the menu here, I'm going to go down to Tools. I'm going to select Copy SNES. I'm going to set the ROM size to the minimum size or off, depending on what you can set it to, because I don't care about backing up the ROM itself. All I care about is the RAM portion. So now I'm going to hit Select, and I'm going to hit A to accept. And this right here has my file name. Let's call this FF Mystic Quest 9. And then I'm going to hit Start. And it's going to copy that save RAM contents over to the SD card inside of the system. So now I can power this off, and that save data is now sitting on this SD card. One big difference between the way the Super NT works and the GB operator works is that with this device, it's a one-way only process. You can back up your save data, but you can't transfer your save file back onto the cartridge. Keep following this channel because I'm working on a method right now that uses this very device to be able to do exactly that. It's some really cool hackery stuff that I'm working on, and I think you're all going to enjoy it because that's going to be a large, massive video going into hardcore details on how the SNES actually operates internally. So some really, really fun stuff that I've been researching and developing lately. And now for some period accurate hardware using old dumping technology rather than modern dumping technology, I brought out my big chungus. This is my Windows 98 retro rig. As you can see, it's kind of massive compared to the laptop that I was just using. So I don't pull this thing out all the time. Yes, this is actually Windows 98 rig. It has an Athlon MP 2800 Plus, a Voodoo 5 5500. Both of those are water cooled. It also has a Sound Blaster Audigy 2 ZS with the live drive on the front, but you can't see it because of the angle that you're looking at. All we're going to focus on today, though, is going to be the back of the system. The reason that we have this out is because I have a pair of DexDrives here. So let's get started working with those. Okay, I've now got the PlayStation 1 DexDrive plugged into the serial port of this computer. But what exactly is a DexDrive? These devices were designed to take memory cards from the era, this particular one, PlayStation 1, and be able to read and write the save files from these and copy them over to the PC. Plus you can manage save files. So like with a PlayStation 1 memory card, how you had the 15 blocks of save data, you can shift those blocks around, copy individual blocks, or back up an entire card, or restore an entire card, or restore just individual blocks. To get started with this, I'm going to open up the DexPlorer application that came with this. And from here, DexPlorer, as you can see, automatically detected that I have a PlayStation DexDrive inserted. The same application works with both DexDrives that were produced. It will just check the COM port and just automatically configure itself and detect which drive is plugged in. So at this point, I can simply insert this memory card, and as you can see, all of the save data automatically pops up on the screen. And from here, all I have to do is click on the backup icon, I give it a file name, and then I click on Start. These memory cards are a tad bit larger than the Game Boy and SNES files that I was working with before. Plus this is running off of a slower interface, so this is going to take longer to copy the data over to the PC. And just like that, as you can see on our right-hand pane, the file has been transferred over, and then DexPlorer opened that file on the right-hand side. When the application first launched, you can actually see a memory card that I previously backed up, and that file automatically loaded, and then we can open up any file that's on the system, and then transfer individual saves or full memory cards back and forth like I described before. Backing up PlayStation games in the era that the PlayStation went out was literally this easy if you actually went out and bought one of these devices. Really, really cool stuff, really simple, an easy point-and-click interface for old school Windows, and that's it. Now, would you believe me if I said that the N64 version of the DexDrive was just as simple? Because it is. Once again, opening the exact same application with this DexDrive plugged in instead of the PlayStation DexDrive plugged in, you can see that right on the screen there it now says N64 instead of PlayStation, otherwise the program works exactly the same. So once again, I'm going to click on Backup, I'm going to give this a unique file name and then click on OK. And just like before, the contents of this memory card are now being copied over to the PC. And then restoring these memory cards, regardless if it's PlayStation or Nintendo, it's as easy as just clicking that restore button down there with the file that's currently open or whatever file you want to restore. Really cool stuff for the 1990s, if you ask me. It's great that we had this kind of technology, even though few people had this. I personally did. Me and one of my buddies, we shared the same DexDrive when we were teenagers. So all those previous backups are all easy mode, just simple, insert a thing, point and click, and it's backed up, right? Easy mode. So let's now move on to hard mode. What we're going to do now is do N64 games, but the actual game cartridges themselves, rather than just memory packs. And to start with that, the first thing we need is a GameShark Pro. This is version 3.2, and from what I've read online, only later versions of the GameShark will support this particular feature I'm going to show off. So first off, I'm going to turn my console off. Let's put the GameShark in. And then I'm actually going to open this for the very first time. This is the Harvest Moon Japanese import that I just purchased from Pink Gorilla Games at PAX West this past weekend. Okay, spoilers. Something else I screwed up on. I didn't realize that Harvest Moon didn't have internal save RAM. Instead, it only used the memory pack, so this method won't work. There's nothing to back up. So what we're going to do instead is I've now pulled out Shadows of the Empire, which I also bought from Pink Gorilla Games. Let's turn this back on. Now let's go to the memory card manager. From here, it'll read the memory pack as well as the game pack and check the saved contents of both. On the left-hand menu, I'm going to select Game Pack, which is our Star Wars Shadows of the Empire cartridge. Then I'm going to go over to the right and select Controller 1, which is the memory pack that I have in here right now. Going back to the left menu, you'll see down at the bottom it says press A button to copy the contents from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, which will go from the game pack to the controller pack. Pressing A, and then it says it's copying, and we get a little progress bar. Okay, ran into a little bit of a problem there. It didn't like the memory pack. I decided to format it since I just backed it up. I have that contents on the Windows 98 rig. After doing that, it allowed me to copy from the game cartridge over to this memory pack. And speaking of backing up with the DexDrive, that's actually the next step in this process. Once you get the contents copied from the game pack to the controller pack, you can then use the DexDrive to back up this over to your PC. And then you can reverse that process, putting one of those files back onto the memory pack, and then using this software here to copy from the controller pack back to the game pack. So this is a bit more complex and convoluted to back up an actual game cartridge save RAM, but it is possible. And again, why this is really important is because earlier games used battery backup saves, although on the N64 they started using actual flash RAM instead. That doesn't have the battery problem. Anyways, we just successfully backed up our Star Wars Shadows of the Empire that I just purchased a couple days ago. Since this is my first time opening the box, I have no idea how far the previous players were in the game or if there's any real save data to begin with. It could be just a completely blank file. Because I know if this game pack does actually use a battery, Pink Gorilla is actually known for swapping out the batteries, which in that process erases all the data, but that way when you buy the game you have a brand new fresh battery. If this does take a battery and it doesn't have a fresh one into it, now I can go put a fresh battery into it myself and then restore the contents of the save file that's on there. Alright, so let me know what you think about game console backups. If there's another console you want me to cover, while I haven't done it personally yet, I've been investing in the equipment to do the original Xbox, Xbox 360, PS2 memory cards. I'm working on trying to get all that done and maybe eventually GameCube as well. So if there's any more you want to see, let me know. Also let me know if you enjoyed seeing my recent haul that I just picked up during PAX West over this past weekend. If you want to see more haul content in either the beginning or an end of a video, let me know too. I usually pick up a game or two every week or a controller or some accessory. And if you want me to show those off, just a quick little, hey, like here's a cool new thing that may eventually lead to a full video, let me know. But otherwise, that's all I got for you today. I hope you use this knowledge to start backing up your games. And oh yeah, one last point, I will leave a link down below to where I'm actually uploading all of these save files. I'm making all of them public for you. And I've been buying memory cards in bulk, so I have around 50 memory cards in total across N64, PS1, and PS2 that I'm currently dumping. And I'm putting all those up on GitHub. So if you want to check that out, check the link below. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.